How you guys doing? It's us again. This is Brandon Thomas,
And this is Brandon Easton.
and this is the Two Brandon Zoom edition.
First time ever, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Hopefully we
First
don't
time
get any
ever. You
more
can you can see all the
pornography
faces we're making while we're talking to each other.
uh,
All right. Well, we know it's been a while, everybody. Good to see you. Hope everyone is staying safe and healthy in these crazy, difficult times. And this is the long-awaited rise of Skywalker afterthoughts.
and this is my fault. And I say this is my
It
fault.
is his fault because
This
he's gonna
time
be
around.
starting stuff. Well, I mean, I kind of started. I posted something on Facebook, and then it kicked off this discussion about the movie. We'll get into that. No spoilers, but I guess we owed it. We owed this to fandom. So it's good that we're getting around to it, and it's we got May the 4th that's coming up. Rise of Skywalker is going to be loaded into Disney Plus. The Clone Wars is finishing up, so it seems like a good time to poke the bear once again on this passionate Star Wars talk. So we're going to start with Rise of Skywalker and move on to some other things. And it was funny because we were trying to get this together a little bit ago, and our schedules are just insane right now, which is good and bad. But I was like, oh, okay. I didn't have to put my thoughts out in public. Maybe that's lucky. Like maybe there's a reason that we couldn't get it together. Maybe in the long term, maybe it's a good thing that I didn't get to go out in public and say what I said. But I guess we're here now. So it it pains me to say it, but I hated Rise of Skywalker. I hated it with a passion, and we're going to talk about why. I ended up seeing it 3 times, unfortunately. Like I had made all of these, these prior engagements. You have to buy tickets like 4 or 5 weeks before the movie comes out. So, I went to a showing by myself on opening night. And then I drove out to LA and I met my friend and we saw it a couple of days later because that's kind of like our ritual with this new sequel trilogy. I've been driving out there. He's been coming out to me. And then my mother came in town for Christmas and we always go see something. And so I ended up seeing it 3 times. And this is probably the first time I've ever regretted that. And I think it kind of, the more I see it, the more I dislike it, which is kind of similar to like Last Jedi. But Last Jedi, I feel like I had a kind of like a higher ceiling before it started, falling off a cliff for me. But Rise of Skywalker is just, I'll say the non-vulgar kind of description for what I thought about it, but in essence, I thought it was gutless. I think it's probably the description I would have for it. Now, before we dig in too far, now y'all know I love J.J. Abrams a lot, probably more than a lot of other people. My favorite Star Trek is the J.J. Abrams Star Trek. So, which sounds insane to a lot of people, but so I like his work. I think he's good at what he does. I think he's good at a very specific thing, not good at everything. But having said that, I thought this was I just felt like everything just fell on its face. I thought that the criticism that I had of The Force Awakens, I feel like manifested itself even more strongly in this one. And that is, I feel like the overriding feeling of this kind of sequel trilogy has been like fear and panic and responding to that fear. And to me, The Rise of Skywalker just felt like it was trying to moonwalk its ass like past, The Last Jedi and just pretend that it never happened, or pretend that the things that happened in it didn't really happen the way you remember them. And I felt that they just failed themselves because they did not stand up to fandom and they did not tell them, hey, look, we made these decisions and we're going to stick to them, and that's it. And I just feel like it was a bunch of backflips and moonwalks and, you know, how the fuck can we get out of this now because, you know, it's all ruined. And, you know, it wasn't. You know, they made some really, we'll get into it, but obviously there are things about The Last Jedi that work, and there's a lot about it. I don't want to say a lot about it. There's stuff that works and there's stuff that doesn't, you know, period. And I feel like Rise just spent a lot of its time trying to, you know, undo it, to untie the knot, and to just make people, you know, feel good, you know, as the story was coming to a close. And I really felt like they, you know, betrayed and let down, you know, a lot of their characters. I mean, I feel like John Boyega deserves like a written apology for this entire sequel trilogy, because they put like a hardcore Star Wars fanboy in these movies, and they profited off of a lot of the goodwill that he engendered from being in them and from being out front. And I felt like what they did with his character was just utter, just coward bullshit. The fact that they want to hint at the fact that, you know, we think he's feeling the Force, but they don't actually want to let the brother use the Force on screen. Bullshit. Gutless, coward shit. And I felt the way they did Rose Tico was dirty as fuck. The only thing, the only kind of caveat I'll say about that is I don't know if the actress Kelly Marie Tran, like, so if Kelly came to them and was like, hey, look, I don't want to be involved in this, you know, this nonsense. Like, I don't want to be the center of this, you know, right-wing, you know, sexist hate machine or whatever that was ginned up by her existing in The Last Jedi. Unless she came to them and said, hey, I want to take a back seat because I don't even want to deal with that shit, then what they did with her was just, again, more just gutless bullshit. And the fact that she was just on screen for 3 minutes and she wasn't with the main squad and she didn't really do anything, you know, I felt that was a big weakness. This whole like Palpatine back from the dead thing, you know, which I was kind of into, because, you know, one of the famous comic series, Dark Empire, the whole plot of that was, you know, the Emperor's back and he's got an army of clones and blah, blah, blah. So the Emperor coming back inherently, I don't think was a bad idea, but the execution of it, I thought was also trash. This whole like, oh, Snoke was like a clone of, you know, was like a clone that I put out there. And it was like, come on, it's just nonsense. I mean, I just think that there are so many like great moments, like great individual moments in the movie, but ultimately I feel like they are just not held together. Everything is unearned. And I really feel like they, you know, betrayed their characters and their actors, because they spent all of their time running in, you know, fucking panic from these people that have been jumping up and down about The Last Jedi for years, when in actuality, The Last Jedi made money. The Last Jedi was critically acclaimed. And I feel that more than enough people liked the movie than to just send them just running in fear. And I mean, I don't like this whole kind of like, oh yeah, you know, like Rian Johnson. It's like, do you know how many approvals like this shit had to go through before they filmed it and then they edited? Do you know how many people like signed off on this movie and was like, okay, yeah, we like this. Yeah, let's do it. And they just want to try to bring it down on like, you know, oh, like Rian Johnson, like I guess they're calling these asses, calling him Ruin Johnson or something, which is just like, come on, just trash behavior. And I just really felt like this was an opportunity for them to basically stand up to these fucking fans, you know, stand up to these out of control fans and tell them, no, these are the decisions that we made. We're going to carry it forward and you need to get on board or you need to leave. But they're so, you know, terrified of standing up to them that this is what they produce, like a rushed thing, which again, this movie should have been at least 20 minutes longer. You know, there should have been a lot more kind of like explanation, a lot more patience. And I can accept the kind of fucking flop sweat that they were covered in for, you know, Force Awakens, because they were making that in the, you know, in the wake of the prequels that were, you know, I guess they're poorly received, I guess, ultimately. But I can understand them being scared in the Force Awakens, but they shouldn't be scared of their own shit anymore. And the fact that they had the nerve to, like, you know, kind of like pulling on this thread where, like, oh yeah, you know, being a Jedi is about overcoming fear. It's like, they're not overcoming no fear. It's like they're running for their lives. Like, anytime it's time to make like a difficult decision, or anytime it's time to do something that something that somebody may not like, they're just like, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. We're doing it for the fans. And it just left me with it just left me with very little confidence that they will ever stand up to their fan base and ever tell them, like, this is what we're doing. We're going in this direction, and there are reasons for it. And you guys, you know, you just have to get on board, or you just have to find something else. And, you know, I don't know what to tell you, but to me, the one kind of decision that kind of exemplifies everything I'm saying is the fucking fake Chewbacca death. In that thread, I feel, is everything I'm complaining about, because they fake kill Chewbacca and they can't even leave him fake dead for like 20 minutes. They have to show us immediately, don't worry, he's alive. No, let us worry. You know, let us sit in the awfulness of that moment. Like, when we shouldn't have known that Chewbacca was alive until the characters knew. You know, 20 minutes later on whatever the planet that Kerry Russell was on. You just imagine if they just had left him dead and they're on the planet and Rey is like, oh shit, that's just Chewbacca. He's alive. Let's go get him. And they couldn't even do that. They couldn't even leave Chewbacca not dead for more than 15 minutes without patting us on the head and like, see, he's alive, don't worry. And I just feel like that's what the movie was. Like, I just feel like they, you know, I just wanted, and it's like, if Star Wars, with its fan base, with the fact that anything Star Wars is just like printing money, like, if they can't stand up to the fan base, like, if they can't make their own fans feel bad for 20 minutes without like giving them a bottle and tucking them in, I mean, it's just like, what kind of emotional kind of impact are we supposed to expect from these movies? You know, and it's kind of leaving me at the conclusion that it's going to be, you know, none or bare minimum.
Okay.
And I think that, I don't know, if I kind of feel like Avengers Endgame kind of maybe like fucked me up and messed everybody else up, because I had so much fun watching that movie. That was one of the most enjoyable experiences I've had in a movie probably in my life. Man, I was screaming and hollering. Man, I was crying at the end. And I felt like it took me through it took me through like all the emotions that it was supposed to take you through. And it made, not to say that the movie made bold choices, but I mean, you know, Tony Stark is dead. You know, Cap is old, Natasha's dead. You know, they were actually willing to be like, hey, some of this stuff we got to move on from, you know, just a little bit. But, you know, we gotta twist the knife a little bit. And just Rise of Skywalker's just refusal to just do anything emotionally that'll kind of, you know, make you feel bad or leave you with like a sense of kind of loss. It was just disappointing to me. It was really disappointing to me. And I feel like they squandered so much. They squandered their actors, the characters. And, you know, JJ put together, you know, this is like a dynamite cast. Like, this is a great cast. Great cast. And they just wasted them. And after all this stuff, you know, we don't even have, I mean, the brother didn't even get to use the Force on screen. I mean, what the fuck is that? So I gotta, you know, not me, because it's not going to be me after this, but, you know, we got to wait for the comic, right? We got to wait for the comic that takes place and after these movies, and it's be like, oh yeah, the brother's using the Force. Oh, okay. So I'll stop now. You can go.
No. No, listen, you've not said anything irrational or unreasonable. I mean, I understand how you feel. I mean, I don't feel the same way, but there's so many things you said that I do want to address. And this is more, I'm going to move away from just my experience with the film to more about the industry issues that because you brought up some major points. And everything in this town, by this town, I mean how the entertainment industry in Los Angeles, is fear-based, right? The entire industry, whether you're talking about reality TV, animation, Grey's Anatomy, Star Wars, whatever the hell it is, people are afraid of losing jobs. I've never seen a business that is rooted in fear. Fear is such a dangerous, horrible thing, as we all know. As two Black guys who are over 6 feet tall, that fear is very, very dangerous, right? So with that being said, you mentioned Avengers Endgame. One thing about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which I worked in a very tiny piece of, is that everything it was extremely well structured for that, in the sense that they had a vision, not the character, but a vision, a goal, an end game, as you would say. And they not only outlined that vision a while ago, you had Kevin Feige see the vision through its paces and make whatever adjustments they needed to make, but there was a goal in mind, a phase, as they say, right? I don't think that existed for the prequel trilogy in the same way that it existed for any, like the Marvel films, or even something like even the Chronicles of Riddick films. Like they have something, it feels like it's moving in a direction, especially the first Pitch Black and the Chronicles of Riddick. The third one, not so much, but in the Chronicles of Riddick, you see that they're going towards something, right? And you still have the same creative team behind it, right?
Yep.
The first mistake, I would say, that the prequel trilogy made behind the scenes was getting originally 3 separate directors to do the 3 films.
Right.
First was JJ, then it was Rian Johnson, then it was going to be Colin, how do you say
Colin Trevorrow?
Trevorrow, something like that, right? Who did one of the Jurassic Park sequels.
Yeah, Jurassic World.
Right. Then he was taken off. Then when you had Lord and Miller, they were going to do, was it
they were going to do Solo.
And they
started Solo. They shot almost
a good chunk of it, right?
Almost all, but they shot a good chunk of it.
Yeah. So there was obviously issues behind the scenes where there was not a unified vision of phases to tell the Star Wars story. Now, I know you have issues with Rogue One, but the reason I really enjoyed Rogue One was how well it slotted into that space right before Episode 4. Because it felt like it was moving towards something. It had a vision, you see? And it did eventually get to that, and the movie ends. But it's beats. And the fact that Rogue One did not have a forced upon us love story, they died as platonic friends on that beach, was an amazing moment. And that's an example of a vision, right? Now that brings me to Rise of Skywalker. Now my issues with Last Jedi are well documented because I felt like the pacing was off as a story. The Canto Bight sequence made absolutely no sense in terms of pacing, because the point of it as a story beat was for Rose to teach Finn, which he didn't need to learn, but that the galaxy was unfair and that life was worth saving. I don't think he needed to learn that, right? So to me, it was a wasted story beat and emotional moment because I didn't care about those animals, those horse, camel things, whatever. I didn't care about the wasted appearance of Benicio del Toro, who was completely wasted in The Last Jedi. The fact that a good chunk of The Last Jedi was just a space chase that didn't really have anything happen other than a bizarre mutiny that didn't, because really they should have killed Poe. I mean, that's treason.
Yeah, it was like a mutiny based on a very simple misunderstanding that should never have gotten amplified into the, it's like, come on.
So, Leia slaps him, and then that's kind of it, and then everybody's happy, and then they get away at the end. And the waste of Mark Hamill. I'm not even going to get into all that. Because Mark Hamill did the best he could. That was like one of his better performances as an actor.
And it was.
But because he can. That boy can act. Like, they don't give him a lot, but when he wants to, he can put on a performance, and he did. So we end The Last Jedi with this bizarre moment with a little kid that's never going to get paid off, you know. Then we get into Rise of Skywalker. Now, I look at Rise of Skywalker in two ways. One, like you look at it, from a very much an adult perspective, an intelligent perspective. And then I was able, the first time I saw it, just go in there like a roller coaster ride. Because in a lot of ways, The Rise of Skywalker is analogous to a Galaxy's Edge theme park ride. You know, it's just getting you to these big emotional moments that you really want to see, that you already know what you're going to get. It's sort of like when you go to like McDonald's. If you happen to get, like back in the day, we used to say there's the good McDonald's and there's the bad McDonald's, and certain neighborhoods had the better McDonald's. Meaning that the sandwiches were nice and fresh and moist, and the fries were crispy, and the sodas had the right level of carbonation and sugar. And then the other McDonald's where they charge you for a pack of ketchup, right? So I feel like The Rise of Skywalker was a good McDonald's. I knew what I was getting. I knew Palpatine. I just wanted to see Palpatine. I got everything I wanted the first time I saw it. But then if you go to McDonald's 3 times in the same day, it's going to be a horrible experience. And I saw Rise of Skywalker, I think maybe 4 times. Right. For, you know, just like for family, friends, you know, the whole.
Same thing.
And each time I saw it, I found myself just wanting to get to the big space battle at the end, which is, you know, I love space battles, and wanting to see, like, I'm a big fan, and this is the emotional side of like the celebration sequences after a big victory. I love
that was one of their best bits. Like, seriously,
wasn't
it? When the 3 of them hugged, like,
God, that was beautiful.
Finn, Rey, and Poe hugged. I was like, man, it's like there are parts of it that are doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Right. But it's like it's all held together by like fucking floss. It's like you blow on like it and the whole thing just comes apart.
Like a theme park ride. Exactly. It's like when you go to Galaxy's Edge and you take that stupid Millennium Falcon ride. I haven't done the Rise of the Resistance yet. But
that one's supposed to be really fun, actually.
Well, they say, you know, we'll see, right? But
if the park ever opens again, you mean?
It will. Dude, it's too much. They'll kill us all to make money.
That's true.
The thing is, you know, when I did that stupid Millennium Falcon ride, you know, it hit the beats, but I forgot about it not too long after I saw it. I mean, Rise of Skywalker had a couple of moments which I will always remember. You know, I mean, I'll tell you the scenes that made me pop. You know, I really was happy. I was very happy to see Lando. Very happy. I was very, very happy to see Rey use Force Lightning. That was a pop moment for me. What else was a pop moment? One thing I liked was John Boyega's confidence. I don't like what they did with him, but his confidence in the role was the strongest performance he's given in the prequel trilogy. Right. So I think for me, his performance, and also, I mean, Oscar Isaacs is fantastic in everything, generally speaking. You know, I enjoyed it. Anytime he was on screen, I enjoyed it. You know, I wasn't upset. And this kind of thing, again, it goes back to, it's a kind of comfort food that's not good for you. You know, it didn't really illuminate me or lift me, but for the time being, I was like, all right, well, it'll do, right? It's kind of like it'll do, right? So what else? I was, you know, of course, Ian McDermott. Anytime I see or hear his voice as Palpatine, I was very happy. Let's see what else. Things I popped for. I was happy to see the scene when they were charging across the Star Destroyer's hull on the horses. That was a lot of fun. I never seen that in a Star Wars movie. The big
reunion scene between Han and Ben.
Oh my God! Yeah, I forgot. See, I even forgot about that.
That was some of the best stuff they did.
I liked when they used the Yoda theme to kind of as a flashback to Yoda lifting the X-wing out of the swamp.
When
Luke lifts
very nice touch
on Octo. I thought that was a really nice. Again, these moments, these pops. And
then like scattered moments all over.
Exactly. And then I really enjoyed the big space battle when the screen is just filled with starships coming out of hyperspace. And that was pretty much it. And then, of course, you know, the reunion scene, Star Wars' first same-sex kiss, you know, which was kind of thrown in there.
Blink and you miss it.
Blink and you miss it. And then, you know, I had a problem with the Tatooine ending because realistically, they could have just ended on the fade to black with the reunion scene. They didn't need to go put this guy. I mean, I like what I understand to
Right.
wrap it all up. You put Leia's lightsaber and Luke's lightsaber.
I thought that was like strangely funny because I thought like that's the type of scene to me that felt like it was for the fans, where the message was, leave us the fuck alone. We are burying this shit in the dirt.
Right.
We're not going to talk about it again, and leave us
until
alone.
Somebody needs those twin lightsabers.
Ain't nobody going to need those. Like, make your own. Just make some new ones. Make some new ones.
The trick is, and this is what you were talking about the future. They're going. This is not the end of the Skywalker story. You do realize?
Of course not. Okay. Of course not.
All right, so let's finish with that. But no, so to wrap it all up, the thing that got me, like on the third or fourth time I saw it, was how that old lady snuck up on Rey. I was like, wait a minute, this is a desert. When she landed, there was nobody like within 100 square miles or 100 square kilometers of that the Lars homestead, right? She doesn't see this lady or feel this lady just come out of nowhere.
Right. It's like, wait a minute. What are you doing? How's she gonna reignite the Jedi and she couldn't feel that some old lady was just
sneaking up on her from like 1,000 miles? Right. So that bothered me a lot. But I mean, I know, because you mentioned a lot of things that I wanted to jump back to. You know, there was this goes back to the fear thing. I don't know why they would be afraid of having Finn become a Jedi. I don't know why they would be afraid to just kill some people off. The one mistake that they made that I think would have really shut up all these whiny ass, complaining ass fanboy types, if they would have just had a scene with everybody from the original trilogy somehow be together again. Like if you had Han, Leia, Luke, and Lando and Chewie somehow be on screen again one last time. And then somehow, I mean, they could have easily done it, but they didn't. Right. I have no idea why they didn't go get Billy D. Williams for The Force Awakens. That makes no sense to me.
I mean, to me, if The Force Awakens, that's fine. There's a lot of stuff going on. They're trying to introduce all of this stuff, blah, blah, blah. I can understand that. But there was no reason for him not to be in The Last Jedi. No fucking reason. If they're going to Canto Bight, that was like the perfect opportunity, for him to appear in that space. Like, it would have been perfect. Like, he could have helped him out. The sequence would have been 10 minutes instead of however long it was. And, I mean, I just don't. To me, the big mistake that they made was that they released the movies too fast, which is greed. If you look at the original trilogy and even the prequel trilogy, there were 3 years between every single one of those movies. 3 years. The fact that they put these movies out every 2 years, because Force Awakens was 15, Last Jedi was 17, and then this one was 19. To me, that was the biggest mistake that they made. They were putting this shit out too fast. They were shooting first drafts that did not have a chance to get seasoned. And the first draft kind of nature of it is just all over everything. To me, the biggest first draft movies that got filmed like front to back are the Matrix sequels. To me, both of those movies, the ideas are there. They're in the story. They're on the page. But the execution of them is flawed, and it just reminds me of, you write that first draft and you're like, yeah, I'm pretty okay with this, but I'll be anxious to get back to this in a few weeks and then, make some changes because I'll probably have some better ideas. And this really felt like they essentially had a gun to their head. Disney wouldn't move the date, and this is all the time they had. And before the movies came out, the first kind of when I started to, I got a bad feeling about this, I think they were talking to the JJ's editors, like the editors he always works. I forget their name, like Marianne Brandon, and I forget the other woman's name. But I think they cut all of his movies, and they said something like they had 70 days less in post-production on Rise than they had on Force Awakens. And when I heard that, I was like, oh shit. And that's exactly what it felt like. Like, that final battle with Palpatine was ass. that should have been like the most epic. Like I'm watching, I'm like, yeah. So first of all, that whole, what I call it, the anytime, any place thing with Ray and Ben, and they're passing the light. That shit was cool. That shit was dope. And that was something new and something, you know, that was, I guess, could be controversial, but they committed to it and it worked. And I was just like, oh man, it's like, you know, like Palpatine, like, you know, sucked the force out of him and he came back to life. I was like, here we go. We gonna get the lightsaber out. We gonna get a big scrap. It's gonna be Palpatine versus Rey and Ben with the voices of the Jedi, like telling her what to do and helping her. And it was just like, well, you just get the other lightsaber and you made like a X-Men X, and then like
Wakanda forever.
What? Yeah, right. Wakanda forever. Like, wait, what? Wait, what's happening now? And that whole battle should have been like the most epic fight, the most epic like Star Wars battle that we have ever seen.
Where were the Force Ghosts?
It was there. I understand, you know, logistically, the Force Ghosts were probably something that was just difficult for them to do because they have to have the original actors come in, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
I was cool with the voices, but with what they did with it, it was just like, that's it? I'm waiting. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, he gonna get the light. He gonna get his lightsabers out. Then it's gonna be him against the two of them. It's gonna be the voice. It's gonna be Mace Windu in her ear. Like, no, you gotta do it like this. Use this form. And I'm like, this shit is gonna be great. And it was like stand up and like put the X up, and the dude just blew up. And I was just like, what? What was that, man? Like, what was that? Come on, man.
I'll tell you what it was. It was the lack of George Lucas, the lack of Jon Favreau, and the lack of Dave Filoni. That's what it was.
I don't even think it was that, man.
No, dude, no, seriously. You looked up a lot of the back. No, you looked up.
Everything was there.
Right, but the trick is you've done a lot of the backstory. You know that one of the biggest mistakes they made, and they said this, was not involving Lucas. You know, because Lucas had a better understanding of how to, as much as people hate on all those, the prequels and blah, 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 there were some really powerful emotional beats throughout the prequel trilogy that forcefully propelled the story forward, whether we like those movies or not, right? Lucas does understand his own creation, particularly the emotional beats. And I feel that if this was going to be the big send-off, there needed to be more emotional beats that we didn't get. And mainly it was the lack of Anakin, the lack of Yoda. You know, I did want to see the Force Ghosts because there was nothing stopping them from bringing in those actors. Because if you get McDermott and you can get all these other people,
that's true.
You could have easily picked up, hey, what the fuck is Hayden Christensen doing right now?
I mean, I was so ready to see him. I was like, man, like this is going to be it. Like I was like, they're going to have this whole thing where like, you know, Anakin is trying to pull Ben back because, like, man, hey, look, don't trust this dude, man. It didn't go right. It
worked too well for me.
Right. Yeah, it didn't work out, man. So you need to leave that alone. So it's just so much missing opportunities, and it's just, you know, it's just so disappointing because it's just the shit was there, like it was just right there. It was like at their fingertips. And all they had to do was snatch it. And I just can't figure out why they didn't. It was like why they refused to snatch it. And I mean, I disagree about the George Lucas thing. I think keeping George Lucas, keep him as far away from this as possible. I think that was another, and you know, this will segue into what we're talking about in the Clone Wars, because I know that he is still, you know, heavily involved. Well, I don't know heavily, but he's more heavily involved with the Clone Wars, obviously, than he is this.
Which is a good segue.
Yeah. But
well, no, I mean, I guess I would just say that for me to wrap up Rise of Skywalker Forever, the kid in me was happy with some of the things I saw, but it's time for us to move on. And I keep getting back to that. And this has been our common refrain, where if I get to the point where something like this brings me a lack of joy, or if it pulls me down or makes me feel unhappy, then I know that there's a lot of other stuff out there that I can always jump into.
That's even in the same universe.
Even in the same, like Clone Wars. Like Clone Wars was in season 7, right?
Yeah.
You know, I finally been able to get through most of it. I skipped a little bit of the 1313 stuff, like the Underground,
Okay.
the Underground, but I jumped ahead to the Siege of Mandalore. So I just felt that the vibe of Clone Wars has maintained the feel of what Star Wars is and what it's supposed to be. And I feel that the beauty of Clone Wars is it shows the mistakes that everybody makes that comes back to haunt them. Clone Wars is as much a study of the battle itself as the consequences of bad decision making. You know, so much of the Clone Wars, like Obi-Wan, for example, one of the best parts of the Bad Batch episodes was Obi-Wan knowing about Padme and Anakin and not doing or saying anything about it. You know, if somebody would have just said, dude, you don't need to hide this anymore, maybe Anakin wouldn't have turned to the dark side.
Right.
You know, that's a consequence. And even obviously was it Commander Cody? That's not Cody, it's Rex. Rex and Obi-Wan know about Padme. Obviously, other people know about Anakin and Padme.
Right. This is probably like the worst kept secret
in the universe, right?
Right.
But and then not killing Darth Maul, you know, a consequence. You know, constant. The whole Clone Wars, story after story, even the crappier ones, are all about consequences. All of them. Yeah. And I feel that that's the most adult thing about the Clone Wars. And I mean, Rebels picked up that mantle further into Rebels. Like, after Vader shows up, Rebels becomes the show it should have been.
Right.
You know, and what's his name? Freddie Prinze Jr. You know, like, was it the last year or year before that, he had a profanity-laced tirade about the fanboys. And I get what he's saying, because he worked with George Lucas. He talked to George Lucas. He talks to Filoni and Jon Favreau. So he has an understanding of what Lucas's vision is. And as much as, you know, I can't hate, because nobody's going to tell me what I can do with Shadow Law, which is my creation.
Right.
No one's going to tell me what I can do with Dominion's Light. No one's going to tell you what to do with Excellence. You know, that is yours. Regardless of what happens, ultimately you created that shit. You know it better than anybody else. So while Lucas has a definite need for gatekeepers and editors, he needs editors. But at Lucas's core, at the very least, he has a boundless imagination of an engine of positive forward-moving emotion, you know, which Clone Wars has. And that's what's not there in a lot of other Star Wars media, I feel. Like Resistance, the cartoon, did not have. I tried to watch it.
No, I thought it was boring.
It's problematic. It's deeply problematic. And ultimately, because I have to go soon, unfortunately. But I just wanted to say the Clone Wars is definitely a triumph in a lot of places where current Star Wars is failing. I mean,
obviously,
to see where Ahsoka ends up at, to see what happened to Ahsoka, was so important. And it fills in so many little gaps, all these little nagging threads that we didn't get the chance to see because the show got prematurely canceled or on hiatus. We've got a chance to see now. That's what happened. This is why Ahsoka was still around. This is what she was up to. And whatever's propelling her forward, I mean, God bless. It's absolutely fantastic to see that final battle with Ahsoka and Maul, the warnings about Order 66, the eve of Order 66 happening at the end.
Because Revenge of the Sith is happening at the same time.
In this,
it's great. It's great.
And you don't lose anything. You don't lose a goddamn thing.
No.
And it makes it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's congruent. It doesn't feel like it's been forced in. It's not some bullshit half story or side story. It slots in fucking perfectly. It's like, this is what's happening because Star Wars is a galaxy. It's not 3 people. You know,
and it doesn't interrupt the main story. They're able to insert these little, you know, these little keys, you know, into Ahsoka's main story that does not derail her main story. It's just giving you, it basically gives you context. That's what the Clone Wars is given. It's given the Star Wars universe context and nuance that I think ultimately the future of Star Wars is going to be in TV and comics and these kind of longer form kind of mediums, which allow them to have more space and more coverage for the stories that they want to tell. I mean, the movies are to me, the movies, they feel so limited now. They are limited by space and time and, I mean, budget, texture. I mean, that's a big thing about the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars has no budget. They just think of the stuff and they create it. They don't have to figure out how to practically, you know, shoot that and create it. And I feel like it's given them, you know, a lot more options, where to me, the Clone Wars has made the prequel era, I would basically say, because we got the Clone Wars, ultimately the prequel era was more than worth it to me, even though for me, the movies are, you know, are not good. And I, you know, whatever, I'm not going to get into that. But to me, having the Clone Wars, having this story, it's like, oh, I don't need the prequels. This is the prequel. Like, this is the prequel right here. Like, this entire story, I feel like, lays it out in a much more kind of nuanced and subtle way. And the decisions that characters make more sense. We understand why Anakin has become wary of the Jedi Order, especially after what happened to Ahsoka, because she kind of got pushed out and pushed aside. And you can feel, like you said,
unjustly pushed out.
These decisions. Yeah. Right. You feel all of these decisions. You feel like the consequences coming home. Like you said, Obi-Wan, if Obi-Wan had just put his arm around his boy, hey, look, man, I'm going to go in with you. We're going to talk to him. You don't have to hide this. This is ridiculous. This is nonsense. Like, this is, you know, you the chosen one. You think they're not going to, you think what, they're going to kick you out of the order? You think, look, I'm going to put my arm around you. I'm your boy. I'm your brother. We're going to go in there. We're going to tell them this is how it's going to happen now. And we're going to be cool. And that's going to be fine. But the whole, you know, like, I don't know, it's against the rules. And, you know, it's great to see all of this kind of come to fruition. And that Ahsoka Maul lightsaber battle.
Crazy, right? Crazy.
Come on. This is what I need. This is what I need right here. So, you know, I'm really excited. I wish they would do like an animated, so like if they did an animated series that was set after the sequel trilogy, dope. That'd be choice. Even though they got to bring Ben Solo back to life, that was garbage.
Yeah,
I don't like this Skywalker. I don't know if it's like a religious thing or something with me, but I don't like this whole like I did one thing right, and so that completely absolves, you know, every other horrible, terrible.
My serial killing, my mass murderers.
Like Ben Solo, to me, Ben Solo should be like Angel. It should be like he will never pay that down. Like he will never fix that. And he has to devote like every waking moment of his life to fixing, you know, the damage that he caused. This whole like, oh man, I turned against the bad guy once and then like I just died. It's like, man, that's nonsense. It's like he should have been alive. This is my last word on it. No kiss. He should have been alive at the end. Finn should have used the Force. More Rose Tico. Better final battle. Half an hour more. Give me the JJ cut, which doesn't exist.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you know what? We don't really talk comics too much, but I did enjoy the Rise of Kylo Ren miniseries, just finished.
Yeah.
You got a little bit more backstory on how Ben went from being Ben Solo to Kylo Ren. It wasn't as in-depth as I would have preferred.
Me
but
neither.
Got some insight, you know.
Yeah, a little texture. Texture.
Yeah, that's the key word. It lacks a lot of texture and depth. And I feel that the sequel trilogy suffers from this desire to, if everything feels rushed, it's like we have to get this, we have to get that one. It's like if this new publishing venture, which is the High Republic, which will be coming much later in the year,
probably much later now.
You're right.
Everything is much later.
If they can find a way to just pump the brakes a little bit, even though we're going way back, but just take our time and let a story unfold. Yeah. And give us a chance to miss it.
Yeah.
You know, because I even think that putting the High Republic out even now is a little bit of a tactical error, because we just, like, people are still having negative feelings about Star Wars. And the only thing to eliminate negative feelings about Star Wars is to take Star Wars away for a while. And that's not happening. I mean, I don't mind the comics because the comics are filling in gaps between the original trilogy. Right. The new Star Wars comics are taking place right after Empire, the end of Empire Strikes Back. which is fine, whatever. There's a lot of questions I had about that period, and that's the least explored period between
Yeah,
Empire
definitely,
and the Jedi,
definitely. And
right?
anything like within the even like
All of
what's
it,
now
right?
called Legends, you know, the
Yeah.
expanded universe. We did
No
get
one's ever talked
Shadows
about
of the Empire stuff, but
right,
you know,
right. So with that being said, it's going to be an interesting. The next 3 to 5 years in Star Wars are going to be very interesting, you know, because I don't know where they're going with a lot of this stuff, and I have a feeling that there may be some tactical errors made in the storytelling that might hurt Star Wars in the long run, because the people who are going to buy the High Republic are not necessarily the mainstream fan base. This is really
right.
a slice of life, so to speak, for the hardcore fans like myself and you. You know, I mean,
Yep.
I don't know if everyone's going to buy it, but I mean, I'm going to get the first book by Charles Soule. Is this how you say it? Soule?
I never know how to say his name, if it's Soul or, but
So,
he's
yeah,
a good writer.
Yeah,
He's a good
so
writer.
he has a track record of not only knowing how to write Star Wars, but the man can write prose. He knows how to write compelling stories with action sequences and emotional beats.
Yes.
So if you can just achieve that within a Star Wars,
his Darth Vader series was dope, which is
amazing.
basically like Darth Vader Year One. It starts,
Pretty
for
much,
anyone that hasn't read it, it starts with him on the table. Like it literally starts with Anakin on the table and the whole like no, but it makes it cool. So you know,
and that's a feat in itself. So
it
with
is.
that being said, I would just say that for now, Star Wars deserves a break. I think that we just need to get away from it for a little while, not, 15, 20 years. Just give it a little break. Let the negative feelings die off a bit. Give it a moment to rest. And obviously, the Pablo Hidalgo and the guys up in Lucasfilm Story Group, they have really I looked at all the backstory on all this. They have really spent time developing and laying it out. At the very least, we know that they've put in some thought. So at the very least, we're going to get an understanding of how the Jedi become a little weaker by the Phantom Menace, because according to the background and all this is the absolute height of the Jedi's power, popularity, control of the galaxy, so forth and so on. This is after Darth Bane, but before Darth Plagueis, you know. So for those, I'm not going to get too much because this is really
yeah.
But this is a good
expanded
moment.
Universe legend stuff now.
That's all we got now. That's all after, because Clone. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna keep. There's no more space for Clone Wars anyway. I'm like, where else they're gonna go with Clone Wars?
No. I think it feels like this is the end. Like, and that's to me, that's what was kind of missing from Rise. This feeling of like epic,
completed,
kind of like finality. Like Endgame felt like the end of something. And for all of their talk about how this was the end of the Skywalker saga and this is the end, it didn't feel like the end, because it really felt like it was just kind of rushed together. And I recognize, I'm sure everyone involved did their best, under the constraints that they had. When you're working on something that you do not own, you are not fully in control. So, like I said, I didn't like it. I thought it was a disappointment, and I thought it betrayed itself. But I don't hold ill will towards the people that made it. Right. Good. I don't hold ill will towards to me, I can hate and I can despise something, but I don't I still love J.J. Abrams. I do. I just, I'm not going to stop. Like, I still love John Boyega. Like, there's nothing that some decision that someone else potentially made in a movie is not going to make me kind of like abandon, the person that made it. So, I'll just say that as the final, caveat. I am disappointed about it and a little, hyped up, but it's not like I don't feel worse about Star Wars altogether, because for me, there are parts of Star Wars that I love, there are parts that I like, and there are parts that I hate. But there's so much of it out there that I don't hold any ill will towards them. I just think that they put themselves in a really bad position with their release dates and the fact that they refused to move them. They're putting the movies out too quickly. They were changing through too many hands. And like you said, there was not enough planning and there was not enough vision. You know, you can do this kind of baton shit, you know, handing off the director's chair, but there has to be a document somewhere that is like, this is who Rey is, this is who her parents are, this is who Finn is, this is what his arc is going to be. You know, there has to be some broad strokes, and it really felt like, you know, kind of like Mad Libs. It was just like, you know, here, I blew up the house now. You put it back together however you want. And they did it and then blew it up again. And, you know, I just hope going forward, less reliance on trilogies. Everything does not have to be a fucking trilogy. You know what I would love to see? I'd love to see a double feature. I'd love to see like a Star Wars event that was just 2 movies. That was it. Like, we don't always need a trilogy to, you know, complete everything. So I want to see a lot more. I want to see a lot more flexibility and a lot more imagination going forward in the way that these products are being created and released. And I feel like that'll give them the freedom that Star Wars demands. Star Wars is about, you know, like you said, it's about conquering fear. It's about family. And, you know, these themes don't always have to manifest in these kind of little boxes that they've created for themselves. It doesn't always need to be a 3-movie set separated by 2 or 3 years. I mean, like, what if they shot the next Star Wars? What if they shot 2 movies back to back? And then, you know, held on to them and put them out when they were ready to come out. I mean, I just want to see a lot more flexibility, which is why I feel like the future of it is kind of on TV or Disney Plus in this case, because it's a lot more flexible. There's a lot more space. And, you know, I feel like the movies turn into like these once in a lifetime events. And then when they fuck them up, it's like, well, we have to wait 3 years in order to fix this. And then that kind of gives them a, you know, like that basically makes them more fearful, you know, for what comes next. And they feel like, oh, we have to spend all this time fixing, you know, The Last Jedi. It's like, look, The Last Jedi should have been fixed while you were doing it. It is what it is now. It's gone. And there were some ideas there that were good, and you should carry that shit forward, man. Just, you know, just commit to it. And to me, it was just altogether just a lack of commitment. And it really felt like, man, let's just make these lunatics feel good about this and get the hell out of here, like as soon as possible. And,
obviously, that did not work. So, you know, well, you know,
well, it works for some people. I mean, there are some people that love, you know, Rise of Skywalker. I mean, I don't understand how you can love to me, last thing, the reason why I love The Last Jedi is because The Last Jedi wasn't fucking afraid of its own shadow. And it took risks. Some of those risks were you know, where I feel like poorly executed, blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't afraid. The one thing in Star Wars that everybody loves, The Empire Strikes Back, there is no fear in that movie. Every choice that they make is a risk. After Star Wars, they had this big battle and everyone's all happy and we did the thing. And you begin Empire Strikes Back and it's like a pile of shit. Like the rebels are like on the run. They are being hounded all over the galaxy. Luke has no idea where to go next. Everything is backwards. Every choice they make was potentially controversial. Putting Han and Leia together instead of Luke and Leia, which was what we thought was like the imagined pairing, even though, you know, who knows when they were brother and sister, blah, blah, blah. But that was a risk. Making the most powerful Jedi Master in the entire galaxy a fucking puppet living on a swamp planet. Yeah. That was a risk. Separating the characters like that, risk. And Anakin Skywalker, I am your father.
And the whole movie is everything's being taken away from them.
Yes. Everything that you thought they had and won at the end of the last movie is being stripped away from them. I mean, that movie is exemplified by the Falcon, which doesn't even fucking work. Half of the time, the Falcon does not do the thing that you want it to do. Right. And that exemplifies that movie. And there was no fear. And to me, the fact that that is the thing about Star Wars that everyone, there's pretty much consensus on Empire Strikes Back. Everything else we can fight and argue over until the world is over. But the consensus is that the Empire Strikes Back was the shit. This was the high point. And the fact that the fan base has now completely forgotten about that. And anytime you do something new, they're just like, oh my God. Like there's, you know, complaining about the connection between Rey and Ben and the Force dyad. I don't even think they should have named that shit. It's just like Snoke put their minds together in the last movie, and this is like a remnant of that. But to me, that was dope. The fact that there was no hiding from each other. You know, like they look up and they're fighting like on a ship, you know, and Rey was on the surface a minute ago. So like that's the type of stuff that I'm like, that's what Star Wars, to me, for me, that is what Star Wars needs. Like a lot less, you know, fan service and tucking us in and trying to make us feel good. And it's just like, man, just go for that shit.
Here's the problem.
Get after it.
I understand what you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but the minute things shift from fan base to corporate, everything in corporations, and this goes back, you talk about fear. They were afraid to take chances. They were afraid to take risks. They were afraid of the consequences of all the little toys that still remain sitting on the shelves. They wanted to sell stuff. Excuse me. And because they could not sell stuff from Last Jedi, they overcorrected The Last Jedi with the Rise of Skywalker, and that's why we have the situation we have. Now, unfortunately, I do have a pressing commitment, so I have to take off. We can keep talking.
I know.
However, I do like this format, and hopefully we should be able to put this up on May 4th.
Okay. Yeah, you can put it on May 4th, or maybe put it up a few days before to get people ready to rewatch The Rise of Skywalker, given all of the knowledge.
And then jump back into this.
Imparted. Right.
Got you.
New perspectives.
With that being said, I am Brandon Easton.
I'm Brandon Thomas. We'll see you guys next time. Everybody be safe out there.
Yeah, and take care of yourself and your family, and do not rush out because this stuff is killing people. So stay home. All right.
It is, especially people that look like us. So
exactly. That's why they rush.
Be vigilant. We all got a lot of work to do. So, you know, to be continued.
All right. Take care, guys.
All right.